Wonderful. Hello, South by Southwest London. We're so happy to be here. So first, a question for you all. By a show of hands, how many people here know their biological age? Hands up if you know your biological age. Not just how old you are in years, your chronological age, but the age of your internal body. Okay, one more question for you. How many of you want to die young at a very old age? Hands up if you want to die young at a very old age. Okay, me too. I definitely want to die young at a very old age. Said another way, how many people want to have their health span equal their lifespan? That's what we're here to talk about today. Yes, health span should equal lifespan. That's how you die young at a very old age. So that's exactly what we're going to talk about right now. What are the tools and knowledge that can help us live many happy and healthy years? I'm Nora LaTorre, and my nonprofit, Eat Real, puts real food on the table at school, at home, and in policy. We help kids live long, healthy, and happy lives. We help them have a delicious future. So that's why I'm extra excited to be here today with some of my absolute favorite people, so we can discover the secrets to happy health spans. Let's dig in. Okay, first of all, Nikolina Lauc, right here. Nikolina is a serial entrepreneur and the CEO of GlycanAge, a leading startup in the health tech and longevity space. GlycanAge is pioneering advanced blood biomarkers with 20 years of research for the prediction of age-related diseases. When she's not nerding out on slow aging, you can find her uncovering hidden insights at a silent meditation retreat. Fun, I want to go. So Nikolina, my question for you is, speaking of biological age, GlycanAge is revolutionizing how we measure biological age. What excites you the most about understanding our biological age and how that can empower individuals to extend their health spans?
Well, first of all, that it's something that's changeable, it's not fixed. So my father discovered the biomarker 15 years ago, and it really wasn't relevant until we saw that you can change it with both simple lifestyle interventions and with different therapeutic interventions. And what it actually is, we have these common mechanisms that would accelerate our risk towards disease and then future mortality, that change decades before we actually develop a specific disease. So you have one mechanism that would govern hundreds of different health complications. And in our case, we see it by looking at the immune system and this loss of function through time, or a process called inflammation. And in terms of interventions, the things we see have the most impact are actually related to hormonal shifts. So we see stark differences between men and women, and menopause has a big impact. And then the second is stress and psychology. So these are two things that inflammation is most relevant to so far.
Thank you so much for talking about inflammation. I feel like it's a word that keeps coming up right now. So thank you for breaking that down a little bit and creating a tool that helps us measure and understand that. So next up, Dr. Deepti, who is my doctor. She's a precision medicine physician who helps people decode their data so they can age with agency. And her superpower, she has a lot of superpowers, fangirl here, but her superpower is bridging real medicine with real life so people can stop guessing about their health and start aging on their own terms. So Dr. Deepti, as a precision medicine expert, you help both women and men navigate aging with tailored strategies, and you tailored one for me. What's one breakthrough in age management that you're most excited about for improving health span?
So I actually don't think that there's a single supplement or test that's a breakthrough. I actually think it's this idea that we can map our own aging process now. And it's not that the data itself has changed, because we've always had access to our inflammatory markers, our hormones, metabolic trends. But what's changed is actually how we're interpreting that data. So we're no longer just diagnosing disease, but we're actually able to track these and detect these subtle shifts in your physiology so that we can, pick up your symptoms before they start, or even pick up disease before it starts. And for women in midlife, especially those who have been misdiagnosed or dismissed, this is a big, big paradigm shift. So we're no longer guessing. We're able to test, we're able to track and trend, and then tailor care based on what your body is telling us. And pro tip is that you can feel amazing during midlife if you stop outsourcing your health to general guidelines and actually start tracking your own data.
I love it. So, Dr. Tam. Dr. Tam is founder of Longevity. She's a doctor with a background in psychology, sports, and nutrition. She's known for epic lifestyle retreats in Ibiza or on a Greek island, or one of the hottest new wellness spas in the world. So my question for you is, you're passionate about the link between emotional and mind health and longevity. So coming from both the elite sports and functional medicine, what have you learned about maintaining peak performance as we age?
I think what's really important about peak performance is how we define it, right? I think what people need to know, or the audience here would like to know, is that we have to work a little bit harder as we get older to maintain health generally. And I think this idea that we have in our 20s and 30s is that health is a bit more passive, right? We feel like we wake up in the morning and our body just puts up with whatever we've thrown at it. So one of my top tips is that, one, as Deepti said, get to know your body, get to know your data. I'd like a show of hands. Who here has some kind of wearable, like an Oura ring or a Whoop? Yeah. Who's got more than one wearable? Okay, nearly. So we're entering an era now where we're going to be walking around with different patches and necklaces on that are going to be taking in our biodata in real time, our stress scores in real time, our heart rate, our blood pressure, our sleep scores. So we're going to be overwhelmed with all this data, and knowing what to do with it is super important. As you've mentioned, I'm a big fan of talking about this idea of emotional health in longevity, because I feel like the movement of longevity has got carried away with the biohacking bros into needing to put into ourselves more and more substances and hacks and interventions, when actually it's how we regulate ourselves and our interaction with others, how we buffer stress on a day-to-day basis, that really determines and drives many of the processes that determine how well we age. Think of yourself like a human operating system, and all of these things that you do on a day-to-day basis, from the people that you interact with, the air that you breathe, the substances you put into yourself, and your ability to change the way your body deals with those, that determines how well you'll age and your health span.
I love it. I personally, for the last 2 years, have been really nerding out on my own data, and I've seen and it's so fascinating to look at it at a trend level, but then on a daily level, and it feels like my health is in my hands, and now it's going to be around our necks, and it's just going to become easier and easier. So I agree with you.
We still need doctors, though. We need experts to kind of point out the signal through all this noise, this tsunami of data. So yeah.
Absolutely. That's when then I worked with Dr. Deepti to create my own personal health plan, which was so helpful. So next up, Tina. Tina Wood tries to bring the science of technology of longevity into the real world of improving human health span, resilience, and flourishing. I love this idea of health span is about human flourishing. When she's not evangelizing about the human exosome, you can find her DJing as Tina Technotic at her longevity raves. And you'll be hearing a lot more coming up about longevity raves. And you might get to try one out at the end of this. So, yeah. So, get ready, warm up, do some breathing. Tina, you've been a champion for longevity at both an individual and population level, and taking the next frontier of longevity into understanding the human exosome. What's one policy or societal shift you're most passionate about that could transform how we prioritize health for entire communities and societies?
Well, apart from all of us going to longevity raves, I would say, I'm teasing there, by the way, or not really, but no, I think the big shift that the wider society really needs to make, and this is all stakeholders in society, we really need to see health as an asset to invest in rather than as a cost, because at the moment we see it as a cost. And let's face it, in the westernized world, and certainly in the UK, we have a very broken model of healthcare, because we wait too long until we need to see a doctor and go to hospital to get fixed. And actually what we really should be doing is to move much more upstream in the health in our own health trajectories to actually intervene and actually do the things that will keep us healthy and well for as long as possible. So that's really where we need to move. And I think now Dr. Tam, she spoke to this already to a certain extent, but we are part of a living system, and I think we also are starting to recognize that we can take our own agency for our health, but actually there's a lot of factors outside in our external environments that have hugely impactful sort of forces on our health. We found that many of you will know about genetics and DNA, etc. Now, what we found out more than anything is that genetics actually have a fairly small proportion of the determinants of our health, and it's actually all the wider environmental stresses and external stresses in our life that have a huge impact on our health. So we must pay more attention on that, because that, in a sense, brings us more to a collective health endeavor, and this is where governments, investors, all the people who need to be corralled into creating more positive environments for human flourishing, as I see it, really need to understand this. So I think we need to see the investment move into the upstream sort of health prevention space rather than leave it too late. There's a lot of money being made in chronic diseases by living a life of convenience, eating junk food, not moving around enough. There's too much money locked down in the status quo. So it's a big system change effort that we must do. So it's going to take all of us to actually be part of that journey.
I love that. At Eat Real, the nonprofit where I'm the CEO, we talk and we work a lot about changing the actual systems and policies and trying to get government to see that they need to bet on preventing disease and stopping disease before it starts, and that if we spend a few billion a year upstream, then we can save trillions of dollars in healthcare spends. But when you were talking, what it also made me think about, we as individuals, and I don't always do this, but like at an annual level, like what is our own individual investment plan of like what are our key investments we want to make this year, of like seeing that health care, that health club pass, like what is our suite, I'm going to invest in this wearable, I'm like, what is your budget kind of what can you come up with to invest in your own health, of like, okay, maybe not this year I can get a doctor to be my advisor on my labs, but next year I'm going to get my labs this year, like kind of creating your own personal investment strategy, because as individuals, also if we spend money early on, then we can save money and co-pays and doctor visits and time and whatnot later on too. So I think it's interesting to think about what's your health investment strategy at a personal level, which I haven't like spent a lot of time thinking about. So.
And you have to look at the time horizons on this, because the reason why we fail here is because the prevention-based approach, an actuarial-based approach, to see the returns takes a long time, and that goes beyond political investment cycles. And likewise for our own health. The earlier you adopt healthier habits, the better, because in the end, it will all pay off down the line, but we don't necessarily see it that way.
Yeah.
And you wait till it's too late. So I think this is the whole shift that we have to take.
And yeah, I do like though this story of human regeneration, that even if we were sick though, or we're not feeling great, when we do take our health into our hands, like you can start to change your metabolic health, your metabolism in 10 days. So it's like, yes, these investments are long-term, but you can start to feel the difference really quickly. So that's really exciting. So now I want to do a quick speed round. We're going to speed things up a little bit. I'm going to ask each of you, and we'll start with Tina this time on that end. So what's one major change you've personally made in the last year that you're working on to maintain your immediate health?
So I have
Share your
three,
hacks.
but
Okay,
well,
three's okay.
Well, so I would say keeping a really rigorous exercise schedule. So I have a non-negotiable. I absolutely have to do an hour of exercise every day. And I might take one day, a rest day a week. It is my non-negotiable. I travel a lot. I always make sure I can do it. And that is the one thing that I do and keep up. The other thing is getting more protein in my diet and also eating more plant-based foods. But exercise, absolutely important. And that's where the dancing comes in. I keep fit because I love to dance. It's all a virtuous circle.
As someone that's a recovering exercise addict and also productivity addict, I really like to lean into this concept of joy span. We've talked a lot about Healthspan. I like to lean into this concept of joy span, which means that you actually spend time doing joyful activities, things that you don't judge yourself for. So that might be anything that's joyful for you, but actually a lot of us have lost sense of what joy actually feels like. So encouraging that. One of the ways I have learned to get there is through breath work and legal psychedelic therapies in countries where it is legal. So major caveat there. because that essentially rewires our system. We become a series of triggers as we get older. Many of you may notice that you become subconsciously triggered by so many things that you don't need to be actually anymore. So rewiring your nervous system through those modalities.
Yeah, and just to echo here what Tina and Dr. Tam have said, so I often talk about resilience as a critical biomarker, and when we think about resilience, we think about how does our body respond to stress. So that could be something like, how do you recover from the flu? How do you recover from a workout? How do you respond to an emotional stressor, like the loss of a loved one? But I've actually had to reframe resilience in my own life, because I'm sure like many of you sitting here, I try to be productive at all costs, right? So you're just always on the go. And what I've realized is that the resilience isn't actually built in your hustle and just pushing harder. It's actually built in the recovery. So now I make time to do that long walk, to do my flow state activity, to get a good night of sleep. Because here's the shift. Recovery isn't actually a reward, it is the intervention. And that's actually where our body resets and it recalibrates, it heals, and becomes adaptable for your next challenge.
Very nice. So I think one of the most fascinating studies we had was with PTSD. So for example, if you're going through perimenopause to menopause, we see that on average you gain about 10 years in inflammation in this period. And it's reversible with estrogen, so it's not a permanent change, it can be fixed. But something that was even stronger than that was a PTSD diagnosis. That gives you about 15 years acceleration on the clock. And we can also see it in non-diagnosed events like divorce or loss of a loved one. And that was the part that was most relevant also to me, because I've tracked my results for 10 years now. I've done it from when you could go and donate some blood in the lab. And over the last 10 years, the biggest impact I've had was pure psychology. Of course, tried all supplements, I've changed my lifestyle in a gazillion ways, but the only thing that actually accelerated by 10 years and then decelerated it was pure psychological stress. And the intervention that worked for me was psychotherapy, but this is different to everyone. And if we look at all mental health, or if you have a diagnosed psychiatric disorder, it shortens your life by 15 to 20 years. So PTSD, schizophrenia, that's on the extreme end. And if you look at what happens to them, so what do you die of if you have a diagnosis? It's all the things that everybody else does. It's nothing different. It just happens 15 to 20 years earlier. So this is purely your mind pushing you towards a shorter health span and lifespan. So I think the most, that was intervention work for me, but that's the place we want to do research. We want to look at the rave studies. We want to look at all kinds of treatment modalities, because I think there's a lot to unlock there that will go beyond any small, currently understood supplements or lifestyle changes.
That's so interesting that you saw that real shift. And I just got a new psychologist, so this makes me excited. And I just made that investment. And I think it's important to also think about not just our health investments, but our mental health investments and how it's so interconnected. So I'm giving myself a point for that. And a couple of things that I started to do were deep squatting my age. Dr. Deepti actually prescribed that to me. So you'll see me on the streets or on a plane, like deep squatting my age. So if you see me out in the streets, just join me. I saw that in some countries they're starting to, you can get a free bus ride if you do some deep squats. So definitely recommend. In between meetings, it's great and whatnot. And then my team has started, and my work wife, my COO, has started using walking treadmills. And so we have external calls, we have team calls on our walking treadmills, and I wasn't hitting my movement goals. And so that's been kind of the second thing, deep squats between meetings and walking tread. I haven't worn my weighted vest on my walking treadmill, so I'm not like totally extreme, don't worry. I'm not taking it too far, but those have been my personal hacks that I've done. There are some changes that just help me get my movement goals, which I was struggling as a mom and a CEO to really get my movement in there. My 1 hour a day, I was not hitting it, so now I'm doing better, right, Deepti? Okay, so we have a little bit of time for me to ask one of my favorite questions that I've been wanting to ask you about myth busting. So what's really quickly a common myth about aging that you'd like to debunk and how does it tie to Healthspan? So have at it. Let's debunk some myths. Whoever wants to go first, like take down a myth.
I can go first.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think we've heard a little bit already, but I think a lot of people think that aging is inevitable and that you'll end up being frail and decrepit and depressed. And there's a lot of fear about aging. I think the message is, I think the joy of living is a really powerful motivator for anyone on their journey in life, right? It's much more effective than the fear of death. And I would say, do remember, aging is a malleable process, as we are finding. You can actually do quite a lot if you do really simple stuff, and you will be healthier for much longer. And health gives you energy and gives you joy, and you're able to do the things that you want to do. So I think, and I think also just, we should not be afraid of aging. So that is my message. And that's certainly, when you get older, you realize that there's another way of seeing things in a much more positive light, and that actually helps you on your journey.
I don't think that people in this in longevity industry as yet, and when we're talking on stage here, realize that the process of aging, as you said, can be slowed down if you enhance the repair and recovery in your life. And a big part of a big window for you to do that is during sleep. And we know that many tools and technologies are coming available now to enhance the quality of your sleep window. Companies like 8 Sleep, etc., improving the quality of your sleep through cooling your bed, providing a dark, blacked out room, taking strategic supplements like glycine, types of magnesium to really deepen your sleep and the quality of the different waveforms of your sleep. So you're actually, the fact, sleep is an active process. I think that a lot of us don't realize that. And you are clearing out your brain, your lymphatic system in your brain works overnight to actually clear out dead stuff and clean it all up. So this process of aging as a process, and the fact that we have autonomy over it is one of the big ones. That and NAD intravenously won't slow down your rate of aging.
You said it.
Thank you for saying
Won't.
Won't.
Will accelerate your rate of financial loss, though.
Yeah. Not recommended for the health investment plan? Okay.
Yeah, so one of the myths and something that I'm passionate about is this idea that cognitive decline is inevitable. And it's actually the way our brain is aging is this result of these silent insults that we're doing over time. And those are things like that cause inflammation in your body, right? So lack of sleep. I'm sure some of us who have been doing South by all week have slept, less than we usually do. Developing insulin resistance, having nutrient gaps. These are all things that promote aging in the brain. And just remember that your brain doesn't age on a schedule. It's responding to how well you live and how well you accustom to the transition. So for instance, menopause is a transition for women, which affects their brain. And just remember that you can rewrite that script.
Yeah. So I think for me the biggest, we already have the first longevity drug. We're just not using it and we're ignoring it. And there's currently billions invested in finding the new longevity drug. Well, there's something already out there that we're not making use of, and that's estrogen. And it's a drug that's been used for 60 years, so we have all the long-term data, and it shows that if you start estrogen early in perimenopause, menopause, you can reduce all-cause mortality by 40%. And then if you look at the global use case of estrogen, there's 4 to 5% of women globally who use it. So we have this data, and we're not using it, and we're investing billions elsewhere. And what happened here is there was a trial 20 years ago in the US called the Women's Health Initiative that looked at estrogen, was the most funded women's health trial ever done. And they didn't design it well. They were treating women who were 12 years post-menopause on average, and they were giving them the cheapest synthetic form of the drug we had. So they didn't reach their primary endpoint, which was cardiovascular disease, and they stopped it predominantly probably because of financial reasons. But then it went to the press with a claim that wasn't true, which is that estrogen causes breast cancer. And you had the use case, which was 40% in the 2000s, dropped to 4 to 5% today because of misinformation, fake news, so forth, bad science. So we have drugs that work, we're not using them. Actually, it does also apply to men. Oh, sorry. So we see that the conversion of testosterone to estrogen is positive to men, and they also, when you go for menopause, you have less estrogen than men do at this age, if you don't replace it. So we don't have long-term data for men yet, but we see similar effect on the biomarkers of replacing hormones in men at a certain age. So there's drugs that work, but we don't use them, and I think there should be more awareness about it.
It's a lot of what Tina's doing, a lot of creating awareness around preventative health strategies and hormone replacement therapy and how to do it safely.
So I am a guinea pig of glycan age, and I saw my biological age reduce over 4 years, and I put a lot of that down to hormone therapy, which I started, and also joy in my life because of dancing and lots of other reasons. But yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right about the hormone therapy. It's one of the wonder drugs that needs much more attention. Absolutely.
But in the same realm, saying that estrogen is not just about protecting you against the symptoms of the menopause, it's protective to the rate of brain aging, as you said, the rate of bone aging, and indirectly the rate of blood aging. So estrogen, when used therapeutically and appropriately, and this is where personalized approaches come in, which is becoming democratized by companies like Nikolai's, I think that's important to say.
And there's also testosterone, which is a new area which all needs research, but yes.
Which is all over Instagram, you know, because if the Instagram influencers do well on testosterone, then we should all be taking it. Again, it's personalized. Some people don't need testosterone, but many people do, and it can, support mood, libido, emotional health, as well as improving bone health and blood health.
I love this message that everyone's kind of sharing of like, just get back to the basics, and that there are some things right in front of us, the proven science that has been working for decades and centuries that can really, really boost our health spans and our joy spans the most. We have just a couple extra minutes, so I'm going to go totally off script, and I want to talk a little bit about the power of community in Healthspan. And I nerd out a lot about the science of friendships, and even how one research study that I read was that, you know, as you're in the same room with people, that your eyes begin to dilate similarly, and your heart rates begin to sync, which is just fascinating to me, which is why I love getting together with friends, being at conferences like South by Southwest London, going on retreats, just that time for us to sync as humans and sync together, sink in deep. And I think, you know, post-pandemic, we became more isolated, and we're reading more and more about how the next generation is so isolated. But then today I read that, you know, so the rise of social wellness clubs and social wellness activities and longevity raves are on the rise. So maybe Tina, if you want to just talk a little bit about like what is a longevity rave, and then maybe talk about some of these retreats that you go to, or what are the ways that you, maybe the question I have for the panel that I'm curious about, or what are the top ways that you've built social connection to boost your health span?
So I think the whole idea of longevity rave, which has definitely caught a zeitgeist moment, it seems to be very popular. I think the reason for it is there's the science behind it. I mean, and I think we're actually talking about using science to test out and to show that raving can be good for your health, and actually showing that clubs, you know, by coming into the clubs and meeting people, and the whole joy that you get from dancing and the movement and the music, all this is a part of your joy and feeling good. But I think there's a whole science, which I'm fascinated by, which is a science of human connection. And you get that in a rave environment. And it's all around that community aspect that we all need as human beings, which you will never get through animal studies, you know, which are, you know, huge investment going into animal studies and so forth, you know, which are trying to discover the cure for the magical anti-aging pill and all the rest of it, and the secret to immortality and all the rest of it. I mean, in the end, humans need to be with other people. Mm-hmm. And we saw that from the pandemic. Loneliness is the biggest killer of all. So there is a huge science behind the rave, and it's just an incredibly joyful way of bringing people together, and it's great exercise, and there's a whole, consciousness element to it. So it's fascinating how it's all taken off. And we're running one next in London at the House of Cocoa on the 21st of June. It's part of a whole weekend of immersion with Dr. Tam is also involved. So yes, we're showing the science behind all of this.
Similar with retreats, you're getting this space of shared vulnerability, going back to emotional health, where you can sort of derobe and share your experiences in a situation where you feel seen, heard, etc. And that has a real physiological impact, as in your hormones of stress come down, your oxytocin comes up, you get this what we call eudaimonia, which is like internal driven sense of happiness, as opposed to hedonia, which is adding things in to take you to an elevated state. So really recommend certain types of retreats which bring together, group work and nutrition, exercise, nature bathing, light exposure. We haven't mentioned those things. And one thing, as muscle being the organ of longevity, I want people to take that away, that we wear this meat jacket, but it's very much a scaffolding for our longevity. It protects our brain, our bones. It helps sync blood sugar levels because it syncs it all up. So really want to finish with that. And I think we're going to move into a little bit of an embodied experience right now.
In a second, yeah.
In a second.
We'll get our meat jackets moving. I've never heard it called a meat jacket, and I love it. I'm now going to be thinking, like, when I'm doing my 1 hour of lifting, like, I'm just beefing up my meat jacket.
I do deep squats as well, by the way.
Okay, I love it. Yeah, did anyone else, we have, like, we can move into it, but should we move into it?
We're just going to sit first.
Okay, great. Okay, yeah, okay, perfect. Or did you want to add something? Or okay, great. I just have a quick, 10 seconds each, one last question, and then we'll move into an exercise together that Dr. Tam will lead us through in a moment of togetherness. So just if you could give the audience one actionable step in just a few words, what is it that they can take to expand their health spans and their joy spans? Nikolina?
There's no one actionable steps. There's no one size fits all. So I think it's about figuring out what is it for you. And that's going to be, if you are going through menopause, maybe it's estrogen. If you are going for a stressful time, maybe it's a stress intervention. Maybe it's 1 extra hour of sleep. But we have people who sleep only 3 or 4 hours and are in perfect health, because that's their natural composition. It's rare, but it exists. So there's no one size fits all. It's about finding what is that investment that you can do for you that will have the biggest impact. And there's no general advice.
So one thing that's easy that I would leave you all with is start tracking how you feel in the morning. Like, do you wake up feeling inflamed and stiff? Do you wake up with cravings? Because energy is data, and it's free data. And think of it like your first lab result of the day. And it's something that you don't need a doctor to interpret right away. You can track your own data for a little while. You don't need a wearable either.
Breath work. One word.
What did you say?
I would just say, do what you love. That's the intrinsic key to motivating yourself to do anything in life, your habits and behaviors.
Yeah. I love it. Well, thank you all for sharing. Definitely, as a hype woman, find these ladies on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on social media. Let's keep the conversation going. Before everyone gets up, though, Dr. Tam, speaking of breath work, your one word, if you could just guide us so that we can do this tomorrow morning and have a morning skill that we can use to expand our health span, guide us in some breath work, and then we'll do a little rave movement. So, Dr. Tam?
So I'd just like you all to put both feet on the ground and close your eyes. Put your hands together on your lap, closing your eyes. And take a deep breath in. And I want you to imagine like a golden light coming up through your feet, to the center line of your body, to the top of the head, and let it go, and see the golden light go down towards the feet and out through the bottom of the feet, bathing them in golden light. And one more. And as you do that, I want you to just take something away. This concept of embodiment. Keep your eyes closed. Embodiment is the remembering that we are not minds with bodies, but bodies with wisdom. Take one deep breath with me. Fill yourself up with golden light. Squeeze your perineum, if you know what that is. And pull the golden light to the top of your head. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And let it go. And in that stillness, from that stillness, we rise. If you can all come to a standing position, and at that point, in the rise, we're going to take our hands, and then we're going to a little shake to the wrists, and stamp your feet on the spot. I know we haven't got much This is moving your lymphatic system, a little bit of a cathartic shake. And as you're doing that, if you can bear it, I want you to just give a little bit of a ha on the exhale. Ha, ha, ha. Shake it out. This is moving, energetic shite from your system. Yeah. Little bit, keep wiggling. Get a bit faster, hands down. All right, and come to a stop. Hands towards your chest. Feel your beating heart. Sense that aliveness within you. Thank you.
And one wave. Thank you, South by Southwest London.
Thank you, everyone.